Hey everyone, first and foremost, let me just say or reiterate, if you haven't heard it already enough times from me, is I'm a major proponent of freedom of speech. Yeah, I'm not into this cancel culture bullshit. But at the very least, I will show solidarity with all those people who are pointing out the hypocrisy and the double standard that has come to light since the fallout of the Don Cherry incident. I mean, I'm sure you've already heard plenty of people talk about and discuss this topic extensively because that seems to be the rule of the day nowadays, is just go with whatever sensationalized story that props up in the headlines or becomes a trending topic in some way and forget about everything else that's happening all around you. Hey, I get it, folks. These stories are important to talk about. But what I observe, what I recognize as someone who thinks about things in more of the macro aspect is, yeah, if you constantly stay hyper focused on individual stories that keep coming up day after day, week after week, rather than stepping back and looking at the big picture, well, they're just always going to keep you mired in that kind of mess. At the end of the day, is greatly enriching those who promote that kind of sensationalized or tabloid style media and reporting. And a darn thing to actually fix the big picture. And trust me, if you only get mired in worrying about these sensationalized incidents and the only response you have to offer is repeating the same shock and outrage, like I say, you're going to live that proverbial Groundhog Day for the rest of your life without ever really getting anywhere in terms of trying to at least slow it down or decline that kind of progression in sensationalism. Headline of the Post Millennial: the Don Cherry Jess Allen double standard is awakening Canada's silent majority. This being reported by Spencer Fernando. Shortly after Don Cherry's comments emerged and the leftist elites started ginning up controversy about it, I point out that the vast silent majority of Canadians agree with the sentiments Cherry was expressing. Cherry pointed that out himself when he spoke to some in the media following his firing. And it became very clear how much support Cherry had as social media exploded with expressions of backing for Cherry and outrage towards his totally unjustified firing. Yet that explosion was also matched by the massive nationwide outrage towards Jess Allen of The Social, who made clearly bigoted remarks about hockey fans and players being white boys who weren't very nice. Then, instead of doing the right thing and firing Allen, CTV made clear that she would stay in her job, even as the family of a Humboldt Broncos crash survivor said that they would boycott the network. Allen even doubled down, refusing to retract her comments. For a long time, patriotic Canadians have been saying there is a double standard, where anyone who upsets the tiny but loud far-left outrage mob gets silenced and cancelled, while those who attack the very foundation of Canada, like insulting hockey, accusing Canada of genocide, denigrating Canadian patriotism, get to stay in their jobs and even get rewarded. Some dismiss complaints of a double standard as the usual partisan disagreements, and the silent majority remains silent. But now it's clear something is happening in this country. The silent majority is waking up and speaking up. In the last few days, the reaction to Jess Allen's comments have been unlike anything seen before in this country. Canadians of all backgrounds have finally had enough of the corrupt elites tearing down everything we love about Canada, and regular Canadians are pushing back like never before. This has the feeling of a lasting change, with millions of Canadians really seeing for the first time how deeply corrupted and biased the establishment press has become. We have seen that those in power in the media will listen to a tiny politically correct outrage mob and fire Don Cherry, yet won't listen to millions of hockey fans, hockey families, and patriotic Canadians when we demand that Allen be fired. The hypocrisy and double standards are undeniable. Now there is no going back. Anyways, folks, I'll place a link to this article in the description of the video below. And once and for all, I'm hoping to put this Don Cherry, this whole incident behind me, because once again, I get it, and it is important. Listen, and I feel bad how that whole situation played out. But once again, if we constantly get mired in these individual incidents without, like I say, stepping back and thinking about the big picture, like I said, if you want fewer of these individual and isolated incidents to occur, then you got to change the culture of this country. Stop being reactionary. Stop basically being a mirror replica or image of those leftists, those outrage mob types on the far left of the political spectrum. That's the problem. Everyone today, well, people on the right are even basically doubling down on that kind of insanity by saying that she should be fired. But once again, two wrongs don't make a right last time I checked. But I totally get the double standard and why people are saying, well, this is hypocrisy. Yes, point out the hypocrisy of the left. That actually is something that should be very, very easily done today. And of course, the people who represent the left are going to try their best to deny that. But once again, even if people try to deny that the sun isn't hot and doesn't shine, well, I mean, they might try to deny that, but reality itself overrides their denial. But at the same time, I also get the importance of adhering to standards. And if the left standards represents cancel culture, well, I kind of understand to some degree why people on the right now are saying, hey, if you can't beat them, let's join them. And think about what that ultimately means for society going forward. If people from both sides of that political aisle no longer hold themselves to any particular standard or bar in terms of social engagement or political posturing, well, what's left? Like I say, if there's no referees and no one is willing to be the adult anymore, well, all you've got left now are two warring factions of people, of ideologues, who only have one goal in mind: defeating their opponents at all costs. And at the end of the day, who really wins under that kind of scenario? Certainly not the greater society, certainly not reason, and certainly not those who love their liberty, which should ultimately represent every single one of us. Because at the end of the day, if you don't like liberty, well, the opposite of that is serfdom, slavery, or servitude. And in my 49 years of existence, I have never heard one person say that they admire being serfs, slaves, or subjects to anybody. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.